In the dense rainforests of Madagascar, where mist clings to leaves and sunlight struggles to reach the forest floor, a sound rises that does not belong to birds, nor to wind. It is long, wavering, almost human in its rhythm. A call that stretches across the canopy, bends around trunks, and settles deep into the forest. This is the voice of the Indri, a primate that sings not to dominate, but to belong. The Indri is not just another lemur. It is the largest living member of its kind, and in many ways, the most emotionally complex. Standing upright on branches with an almost human posture, its black and white body contrasts sharply with the green chaos of the rainforest. There is no tail to balance its movements, no dramatic leaps meant for speed. Instead, the Indri moves deliberately, powerfully, using its long legs to propel itself vertically from tree to tree in controlled, upright jumps. Each landing is precise, practiced, and quiet, a motion refined over thousands of years in a world where falling is unforgiving. Evolution shaped the Indri in isolation. Madagascar broke away from mainland Africa millions of years ago, carrying with it a biological experiment sealed off from the rest of the planet. Lemurs evolved without competition from monkeys and apes, filling ecological roles found nowhere else. Among them, the Indri took a path that favored social bonds over numbers, communication over aggression. Its lineage is ancient, yet fragile, surviving not by adaptability, but by stability. Physically, the Indri appears almost symbolic. Its fur forms natural patterns, as if painted rather than grown. Its face is expressive, eyes wide and alert, capable of conveying calm, curiosity, and alarm with subtle shifts. Unlike many primates, facial dominance displays are rare. The Indri does not rely on intimidation. Instead, it relies on voice. The song of the Indri is one of the most unusual vocalizations in the animal kingdom. Rising in pitch, falling into harmonic layers, it is performed by family groups together. Adults and juveniles sing in coordinated sequences, each individual contributing to a shared soundscape. These songs serve multiple purposes, defining territory, strengthening family bonds, and reinforcing identity. In a forest where visibility is limited, sound becomes presence. To sing is to say, we are here, together. Family is the core of Indri existence. They live in small, stable groups, often consisting of a monogamous pair and their offspring. Bonds are long-lasting, sometimes lifelong. Cooperation replaces competition. Parents invest heavily in the young, teaching them not through force, but through proximity. Learning happens by watching, by listening, by staying close. In this way, culture, not just instinct, is passed down. Their diet reflects a delicate relationship with the forest. Leaves form the foundation of their nutrition, supplemented by flowers, fruits, and buds. Digestion is slow, specialized, and energy-intensive. This limits how far an Indri can travel and how many can exist in one area. The forest must remain intact, diverse, and undisturbed. Fragmentation does not merely inconvenience the Indri, it breaks the system it depends on. For centuries, local Malagasy communities regarded the Indri with spiritual respect. Taboos protected it from hunting, myths framed it as a relative rather than a resource. But modern pressures erode old beliefs. Logging, agriculture, and infrastructure cut the forest into islands. Each cut silences part of the song. The Indri does not flee quickly. It does not reproduce rapidly. It does not adapt easily. These traits, once strengths in a stable world, now expose its vulnerability. And yet, when its song echoes through the canopy, there is nothing weak about it. It is deliberate. It is confident. It is a declaration of existence. The Indri survives not because it fights the world, but because it insists on meaning within it. To understand the Indri fully, one must abandon the idea that intelligence is loud. In the rainforest, intelligence often moves quietly, conserving energy, minimizing risk, choosing cooperation over confrontation. The Indri embodies this philosophy completely. Its days are not filled with frantic motion or constant foraging, but with long pauses, careful choices, and subtle communication that unfolds over hours rather than seconds. Time, for the Indri, is not something to outrun. It is something to inhabit. Behavioral studies reveal a primate whose social awareness rivals that of far more famous species. Indri groups maintain harmony not through dominance hierarchies, but through mutual tolerance and predictability. Conflict is rare. When disagreements arise, they are resolved through distance rather than force. An individual simply moves away, reducing tension without escalation. In an ecosystem where injury can be fatal, restraint becomes the highest form of intelligence. Movement through the forest canopy reflects this same principle. The Indri does not leap recklessly. Each jump is calculated, each landing tested before weight is fully committed. Vertical clinging and leaping allows it to navigate tree trunks with extraordinary precision, conserving energy while maintaining control. Unlike tailed lemurs, balance comes not from a counterweight, but from posture. The upright stance gives the Indri an almost contemplative appearance, as if it pauses to consider the world before acting within it. Vocal communication continues to shape every aspect of Indri life. Songs are not random displays, they are structured, patterned, and socially coordinated. Each family's song carries unique variations, a vocal fingerprint shaped by shared experience. Young Indri learn these songs gradually, first listening, then attempting hesitant contributions that slowly align with the group's rhythm. In this process, sound becomes tradition. A lineage is not only genetic, but acoustic. The forest itself responds to these calls. Other animals pause. Birds alter flight paths. Even humans, when they hear it for the first time, often stop moving entirely. There is something unmistakably intentional in the sound, something that demands attention without demanding fear. It is not a warning. It is a statement. Reproduction within Indri groups is slow and deliberate. Females give birth to a single infant after a long gestation, and that infant becomes the focus of the entire family. Carrying, grooming, and protection are shared responsibilities. The young cling to their mother for months, absorbing the rhythms of daily life, when to move, when to rest, when to sing. This extended dependency creates deep bonds, but it also limits population growth. Every birth matters. Every loss echoes loudly in a species that cannot replace itself quickly. The Indri's reliance on intact forest becomes increasingly problematic as human pressure intensifies. Unlike adaptable primates that can survive in fragmented habitats, the Indri struggles when trees are spaced too far apart. Gaps become barriers. Roads become walls. A forest divided is a forest diminished. Even when food remains available, isolation weakens genetic diversity, slowly eroding resilience from within. And yet, the Indri does not abandon its ways. It does not change its song. It does not shift its social structure. It remains faithful to a model of existence built on stability rather than flexibility. This loyalty is both admirable and dangerous. In a rapidly changing world, specialization becomes a risk. Human perception of the Indri oscillates between reverence and neglect. Tourists are drawn by its rarity, researchers by its complexity, conservationists by its vulnerability. But admiration alone does not preserve habitat. Protection requires restraint, enforcement, and long-term commitment. It requires accepting that some forests must remain untouched, not because they are unproductive, but because they are irreplaceable. As afternoon light filters through the canopy, the Indri rests. It does not sleep deeply. It listens. The forest speaks constantly, insects buzzing, leaves shifting, distant calls moving through layers of green. In this soundscape, the Indri is not separate. It is embedded. Its existence makes sense only within this context, as a note within a larger composition. When the Indri sings again, it is not announcing dominance or conquest. It is reaffirming continuity, a declaration that despite shrinking forests and changing climates, this family, this lineage, this voice still belongs here. The greatest danger facing the Indri is not sudden violence, but quiet disappearance. There is no dramatic collapse, no single moment when the forest falls silent. Instead, there is subtraction. One tree gone, one corridor cut, one family isolated, each change small enough to be ignored, yet together forming a pattern that the Indri cannot escape. Deforestation in Madagascar does not always arrive with machines and explosions. Often, it comes through necessity. A family clears land to survive. A road appears to connect villages. A plantation replaces complexity with order. From a human perspective, these changes feel incremental, even reasonable. From the Indri's perspective, they redraw reality. A leap that was once possible becomes impossible. A neighboring group becomes unreachable. A song goes unanswered. The Indri cannot migrate. It cannot relocate to distant forests. Its body, behavior, and social structure bind it to a very specific environment. When that environment fragments, the Indri does not adapt outward. It contracts inward. Home ranges shrink. Genetic lines narrow. Silence spreads between the trees. Climate instability deepens the crisis. Rainfall patterns shift. Leaf chemistry changes subtly, affecting nutrition in ways that are not immediately visible. Heat increases energy demands on a body evolved for balance, not excess. The Indri responds as it always has, by conserving, by slowing, by relying on what worked before. But the world it responds to is no longer stable. Conservation efforts exist, and they matter. Protected areas preserve fragments of intact forest. Researchers monitor families over decades, learning names, voices, relationships. Local education programs revive cultural respect, reconnecting communities with the idea that survival does not always mean extraction. These efforts hold the line, but they do not expand it. The Indri does not symbolize resilience in the popular sense. It does not bounce back. It does not spread. It persists, and persistence is fragile. It requires continuity. It requires memory. It requires that tomorrow resemble yesterday closely enough for instinct to remain valid. There is something profoundly unsettling about an animal whose defining trait is its voice facing extinction through silence. If the Indri disappears, it will not be remembered for its strength or speed, but for its absence, a missing sound in a forest that once resonated with meaning. A gap no recording can truly fill. In the early morning, when fog drapes the canopy and the world feels unfinished, an Indri sings. The notes rise slowly, stretch, overlap, and fade. The forest listens. For a brief moment, everything aligns: trees, air, memory. It is not a performance. It is not a warning. It is existence made audible. The question that remains is not whether the Indri can survive. It already has, against enormous odds. The question is whether humans will allow a form of life that asks for nothing more than continuity to keep its place in the world. As the sound dissolves into distance and the camera lifts above the canopy, the Indri becomes small, almost invisible. But the song lingers, and in that lingering lies responsibility.